Eric Clapton is another one to put on the courage list. I think Eric Clapton is the only real rock and roll spirit. He and Van Morrison are the only ones alive today that are still cut from rock and roll is a protest. Rock and roll is an outlier. It's it's full of people who just say the things that need to be said. Artists, those artists. We've been lectured by artists forever about how we're supposed to live, and they have always held them up. Now, Eric Clapton is known as one of the greatest guitar legends of all time. Eric Clapton is a god in the music world. Not anymore. Boy, have they turned on him. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of England, said anyone wanting to enter nightclubs or other crowded venues will have to show proof of a COVID vaccination beginning in September. So you've got the vaccine passports now happening in England. Well, yesterday, Eric Clapton responded, and he said, following the Prime Minister's announcement on Monday, 19th July 2021, I feel honor-bound to make the announcement of my own. I wish to say that I will not perform on any stage where there is a discriminated audience present. Unless there is a provision made for all people to attend, I reserve the right to cancel any of my shows. Wow. Ted Cruz came out and said, artists should defend individual liberty. I very much support vaccines, but it should be your choice, not forced upon you. Steve Dace on his show yesterday said Eric Clapton is basically Patrick Henry now. And they have completely turned on him. Author and Time magazine columnist Ian Bremmer said, wow, I love Clapton. Sorry to learn he's such an a-hole. Liz Buckley, a label manager for a record company, said, funnily enough, and I don't think funnily is a word. Funnily enough, I will not attend shows where Eric Clapton is required.
So stupid. Funnily, by the way, is a word.
Is it really?
It does seem to be a word, yeah. A strange or amusing way.
Huh, funnily. I like that word. Used to be you'd hope to get to see aging rock stars in concert before they died. These days, you hope to get to see them before they become Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton.
Really seemed to be completely immune to any criticism.
Ever.
Like, I mean, Eric Clapton, he was untouchable.
Yeah. And now
this disagreement.
And he did this because he joined Van Morrison in a protest song that you're not hearing. In fact, could you look this up? The single is called Stand and Deliver, and it's Van Morrison and Eric Clapton. Can you look that up? The lyrics are warning against giving government too much power. Here's some of the lyrics. Do you want to be a free man, or do you want to be a slave? Do you want to wear these chains until you're lying in the grave? Magna Carta, Bill of Rights, the Constitution, what it's worth. What's it worth? You know they're going to grind us down until it really hurts. Is this a sovereign nation or just a police state? You better look out, people, before it's too late. I mean, we are at exactly the same place that so many countries, as they are going towards a dictatorship, we're at that place. And it doesn't mean that it ends up the same way. It just means you better wake up and guard against it, or it will go the same way. When the mobs can cancel you because you have a different opinion. You know, Greg Abbott said in Texas, we're not going back to the masks. The headlines today are this COVID thing, it's getting bad again. It's getting bad. And we have to have masks. In fact, the president said last night that children under 12 should all be wearing masks. I'm sorry. No. I've had enough of it. Those masks, these stupid masks, make no difference. If you're wearing an N95 mask, maybe. But this is just, the lack of a mask is a gold star. That's all it is. It's a way to identify people who are with the government and who are not with the government. This is totally politicized now. Let me play Mika Brzezinski. She's from MSNBC. She does some show in the morning with some guy that I don't know. I don't watch it. Here she is from the morning show, Morning Joe, on MSNBC. Listen to this.
It is unchristlike to not protect your neighbor as well as yourself.
She's preaching
God
Christ.
tells us that our bodies are a temple to be protected. That does not mean that you are to protect that temple unless Facebook and talk radio freaks tell you otherwise.
Stop. I want you to hear what she just said. That God tells you you have a responsibility and you're not being Christ-like if you're not wearing masks. And these talk radio freaks, you got to stop listening to those talk radio freaks that give you permission. Now listen.
Community activist in Cape Cod, a Republican, is dead. And I really don't know how the blame for her death could fall on anyone other than those cult leaders listed above.
Cult leaders.
The greatest tragedy is, of course, that this all could have been prevented with a 5-minute vaccine. But that fire hose of falsehoods has been spewing propaganda and lies for well over a year. And it's time to turn that spigot off. It's time to deprogram the cult leaders. It's time we do whatever we can to save their lives.
So I would imagine in Mika's little head, I would be a cult leader. So now I'm not only being threatened, her solution is not only threatening that we're going to stop these, quote, talk radio freaks, but I would not only just be blocked from being aired, I would have to go through some deprogramming or reprogramming, some education camp to where I would learn the truth. 1984 coming to mind to anyone?
Of course, we should point out Mika is not one of those talk radio freaks, given that her show was canceled. So she was no longer a talk radio freak, along with Joe, who are, I believe they're still trying to figure out how to add that extra hour to that show.
Yeah, well, that's why they left,
many years ago.
That's why
they had to meet many times. They couldn't continue to do the show to add the extra hour.
They didn't say the show was canceled. They said that we've taken a hiatus to try to figure out how to add an extra hour to the show. And Stu and I've only been doing this for 45 years, and what do I know? Radio Hall of Fame. I know nothing. My solution was, you just do an extra hour.
Yeah.
But they couldn't figure it out.
That's one of my favorite excuses for a failed show in history.
Oh, yeah.
They were on hiatus to figure out how to add an extra hour. That's the greatest excuse of all time. But I mean, this is just incomprehensible. Of course, all these people she's singing so somber about, that we're losing from across the
Republican activists,
because she cares so much about Republican activists. It just hits her right in her soul, guys. She doesn't care at all about these people. She only sees this. If she cared, she would approach this completely differently. If she actually wanted people to get vaccinated, she would do this completely differently. She wouldn't try to insult and call people cult leaders. You don't go to a cult. That's not how you break people from a cult. Ask anyone who's ever broken someone from a cult. You don't go in there and say, "Hey, idiots! You guys are morons! Screw you! You're killing people!" That's not how they come around. You have to meet them where they are. There was a column from Michael Brendan Doherty from National Review this week where he talked about this. You know, I talked to a lot of people. He's like, he got the vaccine. I talked to a lot of people who are hesitant, and they're my friends, and they're not idiots, and they're not crazy, and their concerns are not insane. I mean, yes, there's people out there who are worried about microchips, but that's not the average person. The average person is just looking at this and saying, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm a little ahead. This did come around really pretty fast. It seems like it's being forced on me. I don't like the way the government is going about this. Something feels off." And like that, those
because it's never happened before.
Yeah.
Even though everything is most likely fine with the vaccine, and I'm only hesitating or couching that because I don't know what will happen in 10 years from now.
No one does, right?
Yeah, no one does.
They have a very, very good belief, and there's no reason to believe there's no sign of long-term.
It could
side effects,
change,
but
it's a low possibility, but it could change. So nothing wrong with this. The problem is the way everything is being approached. The way they're approaching it makes people uneasy. What are they hiding? Why are they doing this? Why are they shutting down?
Yeah.
Everybody knows there's a problem when you're trying to have a decent conversation with people. The minute someone says, "This is over. Shut up. You can't even ask that question. Don't ask that question." I think it's a reasonable question. I'd like to know the answer. You're part of a problem. What are you, in a cult? You immediately back up and say, there's something wrong. Even if there's not, it makes it feel like something is wrong. They know this. They absolutely know this. This is yet another way to silence the people who they want silenced. They want to scare people. And I mean that about liberals, too. They are right now, they are scaring liberals. Look at what they're doing to Eric Clapton. Yeah. You don't think that's going to play out in the world of music for people who aren't Eric Clapton?
And people like Mika prioritize their ability to say mean things about Republicans over the lives she's supposedly crying about. She doesn't care about them at all. She's only using them to advance her politics. And that is considerably worse than anything Eric Clapton has ever said.